The reluctant stand-in Vikram Malhotra ran his fingers through his hair in frustration as he stared at the blueprints spread across his desk. The Riverside Development Project was behind schedule, and as the lead civil engineer, the responsibility fell squarely on his shoulders. His phone buzzed again, the fifth call from his brother in the last hour. With a sigh, he finally answered. "Vikram bhai, please, I'm begging you," Rohit pleaded from the other end. "Just this one time." "Rohit, I have deadlines. I can't just drop everything because you've suddenly got cold feet," Vikram replied, trying to keep his irritation in check. "It's not cold feet. I need more time. Mom and Dad are pushing this marriage meeting and I'm not ready. If you meet her first, you can tell me what she's like. Please, bye." Vikram pinched the bridge of his nose. At 32, he'd spent the last decade building his career, leaving little room for relationships. Meanwhile, his 26-year-old brother seemed perpetually caught between family expectations and his own hesitations. "Fine," he finally conceded. "One meeting. I'll go as your representative, but that's it. You'll have to take it from there." The relief in Rohit's voice was palpable. "Thank you. Her name is Anya Sharma. The meeting is at Cafe Tulsi tomorrow at 4 p.m. Her parents arranged it, but it's just her attending." "And what exactly am I supposed to tell her?" "Hi, I'm Rohit's older brother, sent to inspect you," Vikram asked sarcastically. No, just say the family sent you to make the initial connection because I'm stuck in Bangalore for work. Feel her out, see what she's like. That's all." The next day, Vikram arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, dressed in a crisp blue shirt and dark jeans, casual but professional. He'd rehearsed his introduction and prepared questions that might help Rohit decide if this Anya was worth pursuing. At exactly 4 o'clock, a young woman walked in, glancing around the cafe. She wore a simple yellow kurta with jeans, her dark hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. What struck Vikram immediately was her confident posture and the warm smile she offered to the elderly waiter who greeted her. As their eyes met, Vikram raised his hand slightly, and she approached his table. "Anya?" he asked, standing up. "Yes. And you must be Rohit?" she replied, extending her hand. "Actually, I'm Vikram, Rohit's older brother," he explained, feeling a twinge of guilt at the half-truth. "Rohit was called to Bangalore unexpectedly, for work. The family thought it would be better if I met with you rather than postponing." Anya's smile dimmed slightly, but she nodded understandingly. "That's thoughtful. It's nice to meet you, Vikram." As they settled into conversation over masala chai, Vikram found himself forgetting his prepared questions. Instead, he was drawn into Anya's stories about her work as a wildlife conservationist. "I've just returned from 2 years in Ranthambore," she explained, her eyes lighting up. "We were tracking tiger populations and working with local communities to reduce human-wildlife conflict." "That must be challenging work," Vikram remarked, genuinely interested. "It is, but it's worth it. When you see a solution that benefits both people and animals, there's nothing quite like it." She paused, looking slightly embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I tend to go on about my work." "No, please continue," Vikram encouraged. "It's refreshing to meet someone so passionate about what they do." As the afternoon stretched into evening, they moved from polite conversation to deeper discussions. Anya spoke about growing up in a small town, her decision to pursue environmental science against her family's wishes, and her dream of establishing a conservation education center. "What about you?" she asked. "Rohit mentioned you're in construction or engineering." Vikram felt another pang of guilt at the mention of his brother. "Civil engineering. I work on urban development projects, actually." "Ah, so we're on opposite sides," she teased. "You build and I try to protect what's already there." "Maybe not so opposite," he countered. "My current project is integrating green spaces and sustainable designs into urban housing. We might have more in common than you think." The waiter approached with a gentle reminder that the cafe would be closing soon. Vikram was startled to realize they had been talking for nearly 3 hours. "I should get going," Anya said, gathering her things. This was unexpected, but very nice. As they walked out into the evening air, Vikram found himself reluctant to end their meeting. "Can I drop you somewhere?" "I have my scooter, but thank you," she replied. Then, with a slight tilt of her head, she added, "Will you be telling Rohit about our meeting? I'd like to know what happens next." The question hung between them, and Vikram felt the weight of his deception grow heavier. He was here for Rohit, yet throughout the evening he'd never once considered his brother's potential interest in Anya. Instead, he'd been forming his own impressions, his own connection. "I'll talk to him tonight," Vikram promised, not entirely sure what he would say. As Anya rode away on her scooter, Vikram stood watching, an unfamiliar feeling stirring within him. He had come as a stand-in, a reluctant favor to his brother. He hadn't expected to meet someone who made him question the carefully ordered priorities of his life. His phone rang. Rohit, calling for an update. Vikram stared at the screen, uncertain, for the first time in years about what his next step should be. Growing connections a week had passed since Vikram's meeting with Anya, and he still hadn't given Rohit a clear answer. Each time his brother called for details, Vikram found himself being vague, mentioning only that Anya seemed nice enough and that Rohit should meet her himself to decide. "But that's why I sent you," Rohit had exclaimed during their last call. "I need more than nice enough, Pai. What did you talk about? Would she fit with our family?" The truth was that Vikram couldn't stop thinking about Anya. Her passion, her intelligence, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. These memories kept interrupting his work on the Riverside development plans. "Fine," Vikram finally told his brother. "I'll meet her once more to get a better impression. Then you can take over." But Vikram knew he was lying to himself as much as to Rohit. When he messaged Anya suggesting another meeting to discuss further family compatibility, he was already anticipating seeing her again with an eagerness that surprised him. They met at an outdoor plant nursery and cafe that Anya had suggested. As Vikram navigated through rows of potted plants and hanging vines, he spotted her examining a young neem sapling completely absorbed. "Thinking of starting your own forest?" he asked, approaching her. Anya looked up, her face brightening. "Vikram, I was just admiring this little fighter. The owner said it survived a warehouse fire." She gently touched a leaf. "Nature's resilience is amazing, isn't it?" As they walked through the nursery, Anya pointed out various plants, explaining their ecological importance with such enthusiasm that Vikram found himself seeing the greenery through new eyes. "You know, in my work, I often have to convince developers to preserve existing trees rather than cutting them down and planting new ones later," she said. 100 new saplings can't replace one mature banyan that's been filtering air and supporting wildlife for decades." Vikram felt a twinge of guilt, remembering the ancient peepal tree his team had removed for the Riverside project. "I suppose we developers can be stubborn about our plans," he admitted. "Not stubborn," Anya corrected, surprising him. "Just focused on different priorities. The challenge is finding the balance, development that respects nature rather than conquering it." They settled at a small table in the nursery's cafe, surrounded by potted herbs that scented the air. Over steaming cups of adrak chai, their conversation flowed from environmental challenges to childhood memories, from favorite books to future aspirations. "My parents were shocked when I turned down a corporate job to work in conservation," Anya shared. "They couldn't understand why I'd choose muddy boots over air-conditioned offices." "And now?" Vikram asked. "Now they've accepted it mostly. My father still hints about real careers whenever relatives visit." She laughed softly. "That's partly why I agreed to this arranged marriage process, a small compromise to balance my unconventional career choice." Vikram nodded, understanding family expectations all too well. "My parents were thrilled when I became an engineer, their perfect obedient son. Rohit's always been the rebel, changing courses 3 times in college." "And what about you? Are you happy with your choices?" The question caught Vikram off guard. Was he happy? He had achievements, recognition, financial security. But happiness? "I'm satisfied, he answered carefully. Though lately, I've been questioning whether I've focused too much on building structures and not enough on building a life. Anya's gaze was thoughtful. It's never too late to adjust your blueprint. As the afternoon progressed, they wandered to a nearby park, continuing their conversation as the sun began to set. Anya shared stories of close encounters with wildlife during her fieldwork. The time a sloth bear surprised her team, the morning she watched tiger cubs playing just meters away. The most magical moment was releasing a rehabilitated eagle owl, she said, her face glowing with the memory. Seeing it soar free after weeks of treatment, that feeling justifies every hardship. Vikram found himself sharing more than he had with anyone in years. His childhood dream of building bridges that would connect isolated villages, his secret hobby of sketching old architecture on Sunday mornings, his growing dissatisfaction with projects that prioritized profit over people's needs. You should show me these sketches sometime, Anya said, then looked surprised at her own forwardness. I mean, if that wouldn't be strange, considering the circumstances. The mention of circumstances brought reality crashing back. Vikram was here under false pretenses, evaluating Anya for his brother while developing feelings for her himself. Yet he couldn't stop himself from suggesting, "There's an exhibition on sustainable architecture at the National Museum this weekend. Would you like to go, as friends, of course?" "Friends?" Anya repeated with a smile that made Vikram's heart race. "I'd like that." Over the following weeks they met regularly, always with the ostensible purpose of getting to know each other's family background better. They explored the city's botanical gardens, attended a lecture on urban wildlife corridors, and volunteered together at a river cleanup drive. Each meeting deepened their connection. Vikram found himself opening up about his hopes and doubts in ways he never had before. Anya challenged his perspectives while respecting his expertise, making him reconsider aspects of his projects he had taken for granted. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching fireflies emerge at dusk, Anya turned to him with unexpected seriousness. "Vikram, it's been over a month since our first meeting. I've enjoyed our time together immensely, but what's happening with Rohit? Has he made a decision about meeting me?" The question hung between them like a physical barrier. Vikram felt trapped between growing feelings for Anya and his deception about Rohit, who had become increasingly impatient for updates. "Rohit is," Vikram began, then faltered. What could he say? That Rohit had moved on to meeting other prospects while Vikram secretly continued seeing Anya? That he had been deliberately misleading both his brother and her? "He's still interested," Vikram finally said, hating himself for the lie. "But his work situation is complicated right now." Anya nodded slowly, but something in her expression had changed. "I see. And these meetings with you, they're still just family reconnaissance?" The opportunity to confess hovered before him, but fear held Vikram back. "My parents value my opinion," he said, avoiding her eyes. "They trust me to assess compatibility." "Compatibility?" Anya repeated softly. "And what have you assessed so far, Vikram?" Their eyes met in the gathering darkness, and Vikram felt as though he stood at a precipice. The truth would destroy this precious connection. But continuing, the deception would only lead to greater pain. Before he could respond, Anya's phone rang, her mother calling. The moment shattered, and Anya rose to take the call a few steps away. Watching her silhouette against the evening sky, Vikram made a decision. He would tell Rohit tonight that Anya wasn't a suitable match for him. Then he would confess everything to Anya and ask for a chance to start over honestly. What he didn't realize was that his time had already run out. As Anya returned from her call, her expression was unreadable in the dim light. "That was my mother," she said quietly. She just had a very interesting conversation with Rohit's mother about Rohit's engagement last weekend to a girl from Pune. The painful truth. The words hung in the evening air like shards of glass. Vikram felt his stomach drop as Anya's revelation stripped away his carefully constructed pretense. "Engagement," he managed, his voice hollow. Rohit is engaged? According to his mother, who called my mother to apologize for any confusion. Anya said, her voice eerily calm. Apparently, Rohit had been seeing someone for months before our families even connected. They formalized everything last weekend. She paused, studying his face. But you knew that, didn't you? Vikram's mind raced. Rohit had mentioned a girl from his office months ago, but had insisted it wasn't serious. Meanwhile, he'd been pushing Vikram to meet Anya, claiming interest in a potential match. Nothing made sense. I didn't know, Vikram said truthfully. Rohit told me he was interested in meeting you. That's why I... He stopped abruptly, realizing he was only digging a deeper hole. Why you what, Vikram? Anya's calm facade was cracking, hurt seeping through. Why you pretended to be evaluating me for your brother all this time? Why you let me believe these meetings had a purpose beyond... She gestured between them, unable to find the right words. It wasn't like that, Vikram insisted, stepping toward Yes, it started as a favor to Rohit, but... A favor, she echoed, taking a step back. I was a favor. No, please, Anya, let me explain. The desperation in his voice surprised even him. That first day, yes, I came for Rohit. But after we met, everything changed. I kept seeing you because I wanted to, because you what? Enjoyed deceiving me? Found it amusing to string me along? Her voice trembled now, anger mixing with hurt. Because I was falling for you, Vikram admitted, the truth finally breaking free. I've never connected with anyone the way I connect with you. I was going to tell Rohit tonight that you weren't right for him, and then I was going to tell you everything and ask if we could start over. Anya's laugh was bitter. How convenient that your confession comes only after being caught. She rapped, her arms around herself as if suddenly cold despite the warm evening. Do you have any idea how this feels? To discover that our entire relationship, every conversation, every shared moment, was built on a lie? Not everything was a lie, Vikram pleaded. What we talked about, what we shared, that was real. Was it? Anya challenged, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Tell me, Vikram, what exactly was real? When you suggested the architecture exhibition, was that real? Or were you still pretending to assess me for your brother? When you shared your sketches with me last week, was that real? Or part of your evaluation? How am I supposed to know where the deception ended and truth began? Each question struck Vikram like a physical blow. He had no defense, no justification that could undo the hurt he'd caused. All of it was real for me, he said quietly. From our second meeting onward, I wasn't thinking about Rohit. I was just thinking about you. But you never told me. Week after week, you maintained the charade. Anya wiped angrily at a tear that had escaped. Do you know what makes this worse? I started to hope there was something genuine happening between us. I even told my parents I wanted to meet Rohit soon to see if what I felt with you could possibly exist with him. How naive I was. The revelation that Anya had felt something too only deepened Vikram's regret. I'm so sorry, he said, knowing how inadequate the words were. I was a coward. I was afraid of losing what we had. What we had was an illusion. Anya gathered her bag, preparing to leave. I trusted you, Vikram. Despite this being an arranged marriage situation, I opened up to you in ways I haven't with anyone. I shared my dreams, my fears, my past, and all this time you were living a lie. Please. Vikram reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Give me a chance to make this right. What I feel for you is real, Anya. More real than anything I've felt before. That's the problem, she said, her voice breaking. I believed you were real, too. With that, she turned and walked away, her figure growing smaller against the darkening sky. Vikram stood frozen, the weight of his deception crushing any words he might have called after her. Later that night, Vikram confronted Rohit over a video call. His brother's sheepish expression confirmed everything. I was going to tell you, Rohit said defensively. Priya and I have been dating for nearly a year, but you know how traditional our parents are. They wanted me to consider arranged matches, so I went along with it while Priya and I figured things out. And you used me to keep them appeased, Vikram said flatly. You had me meet Anya as your stand-in while you had no intention of pursuing her. Rohit at least had the grace to look ashamed. I didn't think it would go this far. You were supposed to meet her once, tell our parents it wasn't a good match and that would be it, but then you kept seeing her giving vague reports. I thought maybe you liked her yourself. I do like her, Vikram admitted, running a hand over his face. And now I've hurt her terribly because of this ridiculous deception. I'm sorry, Bai, Rohit said, genuinely contrite. I didn't think about how it might affect her, or you. I was just trying to buy time with our parents until Priya and I were ready to announce our relationship. Vikram ended the call feeling hollow. His relationship with his brother would recover. They had weathered worse disagreements, but what about Anya? The pain in her eyes haunted him. For days, Vikram tried reaching out. Messages that went unread, calls that went to voicemail, even a handwritten letter explaining everything that was returned unopened. After a week, he received a single text. Please stop contacting me, I need space. He respected her request, though it pained him deeply. Instead, he threw himself into work, redesigning portions of the riverside development to incorporate more green spaces and preservation of existing trees. Small changes inspired by conversations with Anya. 3 weeks after their confrontation, Vikram was reviewing site plans when his colleague Nikhil mentioned a community protest. Some environmental group is challenging our permits for the east section, Nikhil explained. They're saying we didn't properly assess the impact on the wetland area. Vikram felt a jolt of recognition. Who's leading the protest? Some conservation organization. Guardians of Green, I think. Their spokesperson is quite persuasive. Has the community all riled up? That afternoon, Vikram drove to the site where protesters had gathered. As he expected, there was Anya, clipboard in hand, speaking passionately to a reporter about the ecological importance of the wetland area. She looked tired but determined, her conviction undiminished. Vikram hung back, watching her from a distance. Even now, knowing she wanted nothing to do with him, he was captivated by her unwavering commitment to what she believed in. Her integrity stood in stark contrast to his deception. When the small crowd began to disperse, Anya spotted him. For a moment, their eyes met across the distance. Vikram saw surprise, then hurt, then a carefully constructed neutrality cross her face before she turned away, deliberately engaging with another protester. The message was clear. Whatever they might have had was over. His dishonesty had destroyed any possibility of a relationship before it truly began. As Vikram drove back to his office, he made a decision. He couldn't undo his mistake, but perhaps he could still do what was right. He would review the environmental assessment for the wetland area himself, and if Anya's concerns had merit, which he suspected they did, he would recommend a redesign, regardless of the cost or delay. It wouldn't win her back. It wouldn't erase his betrayal. But it would honor what he had learned from her, that integrity mattered more than convenience, and doing the right thing sometimes required sacrifice. That night, as he pored over environmental impact reports, Vikram realized that in losing Anya, he had gained something unexpected, a clearer sense of his own values and the courage to stand by them, even when it was difficult. The pain of losing her was still acute, a constant ache beneath his ribs, but alongside it grew a quiet determination to become the kind of man who deserved someone like Anya. Honest, principled, unafraid to fight for what mattered. Even if she never gave him another chance, he owed her that much. The road to redemption would be long, and success was far from guaranteed, but for the first time in his life, Vikram was willing to take a journey without knowing the destination, just as Anya had taught him through her own fearless pursuit of purpose over certainty. A path to redemption. 3 months had passed since Vikram had last spoken to Anya. 3 months of reflection, regret, and quiet transformation. The riverside development plans now included a protected wetland conservation area, a decision that had initially angered investors, but eventually earned the project recognition for environmental innovation. Vikram sat in his office reviewing the revised blueprints. The preservation of the wetlands had forced creative adaptations to the original design, resulting in a more integrated approach that many were now calling visionary. But Vikram took little satisfaction in the professional accolades. The changes hadn't been made to win awards, they'd been made because they were right. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant Ritu poked her head in. "The Community Liaison Committee is here for the meeting," she informed him, "including representatives from Guardians of Green." Vikram nodded, steeling himself. He hadn't known if Anya would attend this meeting, though he'd hoped she might. As the project's lead engineer, he could have delegated this community engagement to someone else, but he had deliberately chosen to face whatever came, including the possibility of seeing her again. In the EI conference room, various stakeholders were settling around the table. Vikram scanned the faces, his heart sinking when he didn't see Anya among them. Instead, an older gentleman with a neat gray beard introduced himself as Dr. Desai, the senior advisor for Guardians of Green. "Ms. Sharma sends her apologies." "Dr." Desai explained, as if sensing Vikram's disappointment. "She's been called to Sundarbans for an emergency conservation project. She asked me to represent the organization in her absence." Vikram maintained his professional composure as he led the meeting, presenting the revised plans and addressing concerns from community members. Throughout the discussion, he found himself wondering what Anya would think of the changes, if she would approve of the compromises they'd reached. After the meeting, as attendees filtered out, Dr. Desai lingered behind. "Mr. Malhotra," he said, approaching Vikram, "I wanted to commend you personally on the wetland preservation initiative. It's rare to see developers so responsive to environmental concerns." "Thank you, but I can't take full credit," Vikram replied honestly. "Your organization made compelling arguments that we couldn't ignore." Dr. Desai smiled knowingly. "Anya mentioned you might say something like that. She speaks highly of your professional integrity despite other circumstances." Vikram felt a flicker of hope at these words. "She does?" "Indeed. She was quite surprised when you supported our petition against your own project's original plans. It made quite an impression." The older man paused, studying Vikram thoughtfully. "She's a remarkable young woman, passionate, principled." "Yes, she is," Vikram agreed quietly. Dr. Desai reached into his briefcase and withdrew a brochure. "Guardians of Green is hosting a fundraiser next month for our new education center. Anya is spearheading the project. Perhaps you'd be interested in attending." Vikram accepted the brochure, careful not to appear too eager. "I'll consider it, thank you." After Dr. Desai left, Vikram stared at the brochure, tracing the outline of the proposed education center with his finger. This had been Anya's dream, to create a place where children could learn about conservation through hands-on experiences. She had spoken about it during one of their early meetings, her eyes alight with possibility. The following day, instead of sending a company donation as would have been expected, Vikram visited the Guardians of Green office personally. He asked to speak with whoever was managing the education center project in Anya's absence. A young woman named Purna, who introduced herself as Anya's colleague, showed him the plans for the center. "We've secured the land, but construction funds are still short," she explained. "That's why the fundraiser is so crucial." Vikram studied the architectural drawings, noting several areas where costs could be reduced without compromising quality. "These plans are ambitious," he said. "Have you considered alternative materials for the observation deck? There are sustainable options that could cut costs by nearly 30%. Prerna looked at him with renewed interest. "Are you offering professional advice, Mr. Malhotra?" "I'm offering whatever help might be useful," Vikram replied simply. "No strings attached, no recognition needed." Over the next few weeks, Vikram spent his evenings reviewing the education center plans, suggesting cost-saving modifications, and connecting Guardians of Green with ethical suppliers who would provide materials at reduced rates. He was careful to work with Purna rather than trying to contact Anya directly. This wasn't about winning her back. It was about supporting something that mattered to her. One evening, as Vikram was leaving the Guardians of Green office after dropping off revised cost estimates, his phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Vikram Malhotra speaking," he answered, stepping out into the warm evening air. Vikram. The voice he had missed for months sent a jolt through him. "This is Anya." For a moment, he couldn't find his voice. "Anya," he finally managed. "How are you?" "I'm well. I'm back from Sunderbans." There was a pause. "Purna told me what you've been doing for the Education Center project." Vikram leaned against a pillar, unsure what to say. "The plans are excellent. I just offered some technical suggestions." "You've done more than that," Anya said quietly. "The suppliers you connected us with have saved us nearly 15 lakhs in construction costs, and the redesigned roof will reduce our energy consumption significantly." "It was the least I could do," Vikram replied, meaning it. Another pause stretched between them. "Why are you doing this, Vikram?" Anya finally asked, her voice carrying a hint of the hurt that still lingered. Vikram considered his answer carefully. "Because it's a worthy project, because it will make a difference for the children who visit and learn there. Because—" he hesitated, then decided on complete honesty, "because it matters to you." He heard her soft inhale on the other end of the line. "I'm not sure what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Vikram assured her. "I'm not expecting forgiveness or a second chance. I just want to help make your vision a reality." "Thank you," she said finally. "Will you be attending the fundraiser next month?" "If you're comfortable with me being there, yes." "I'd like you to come," Anya said, surprising him. "We should talk in person. It's been a long time." After they disconnected, Vikram stood motionless, the phone still in his hand. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. A small opening where before there had been only a closed door. 2 weeks later, a crisis emerged that had nothing to do with Vikram's work or the education center. Anya's father suffered a severe heart attack, requiring emergency surgery in Delhi. Vikram learned of it through Dr. Desai, who mentioned it during a site visit to the wetland preservation area. Without hesitation, Vikram called his college friend Pranav, a cardiologist at Delhi's top cardiac hospital, asking for his personal attention to Mr. Sharma's case. He arranged for specialized equipment to be flown in from Mumbai when it became clear it would be needed for the procedure. He did all this quietly without informing Anya, asking those involved to maintain discretion about his involvement. But in a hospital waiting room 3 days later, as Anya stepped out to get coffee during her vigil at her father's bedside, she came face to face with Vikram, who was speaking with Pranav about Mr. Sharma's condition. "Vikram?" Her voice was a mix of confusion and surprise. "What are you doing here?" Vikram turned, caught off guard. "Anya, I heard about your father. Dr. Pranav is an old friend. I just wanted to make sure he was getting the best care." Understanding dawned on her face. "The specialist from Mumbai, the expedited tests, that was you?" Vikram shifted uncomfortably under her scrutiny. "Your father deserved the best possible care. I was in a position to help facilitate that. You did all this without telling me?" "It wasn't about credit," Vikram explained softly. "I just wanted to help." Anya's eyes filled with tears, not of anger this time, but something more complex. "My father's doctor said the speed of intervention made all the difference. They're saying he'll make a full recovery." "That's wonderful news," Vikram said sincerely, too. His complete surprise, Anya stepped forward and embraced him briefly. "Thank you," she whispered against his shoulder before pulling away, wiping her eyes. "Not just for this, but for everything you've done these past months. I've been hearing about it from everyone. The wetland preservation, the help with the education center. Why, after I shut you out completely?" Vikram met her gaze steadily. "Because my feelings for you were real, Anya. What I did was wrong, I can't change that. But I could change how I lived afterward. You showed me what it means to stand by your principles, to fight for what matters. I wanted to be worthy of that lesson, even if you never spoke to me again." Anya studied him for a long moment, her expression softening. "Would you like to get some coffee? I think we have a lot to talk about." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It wasn't a second chance, not exactly. But as they walked side by side to the hospital cafeteria, Vikram felt something that had been knotted tight within him begin to loosen. The path to redemption wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic apologies. It was about consistent actions day after day that reflected genuine change. He had no idea where this conversation would lead, but for once in his meticulously planned life, Vikram was content to simply walk the path one step at a time, without knowing the destination. And in that moment, uncertain as it was, he felt more authentic and alive than he had in years. Hearts reconciled. The evening of the fundraiser arrived, bathing the outdoor venue in golden light. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees surrounding the space where Guardians of Green had set up displays showcasing their conservation work and plans for the education center. Vikram adjusted his tie nervously as he entered, scanning the growing crowd for a familiar face. The past month since their hospital cafeteria conversation had brought gradual but meaningful changes to his relationship with Anya. What had begun as cautious text messages about her father's recovery had evolved into occasional phone calls, and finally, a few careful meetings, first for coffee to discuss the education center, then a walk through the wetland preservation area to review progress. They had deliberately kept their interactions focused on projects and professional matters, both aware of the fragile nature of their rebuilding connection. Neither had directly addressed what might exist between them beyond the tentative friendship they were forming, though Vikram often caught himself watching Anya when she was engrossed in explaining something, remembering how it felt when they had been on the verge of something more. "Mr. Malhotra." Purna's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "I'm so glad you could make it. The model of the education center is set up near the stage. People are fascinated by the sustainable design elements you suggested." Vikram smiled. "It's Anya's vision that makes it special. I just helped with some technical details." "Such modesty," Purna teased. "Anya's near the butterfly garden display. She's been looking for you." The knowledge that Anya had been watching for his arrival sent a ripple of warmth through Vikram as he made his way through the crowd. He found her explaining the life cycle of monarch butterflies to a group of enthralled children, her hands moving expressively as she described their incredible migration patterns. She looked beautiful in a teal silk sari with a subtle leaf pattern, her hair swept up in an elegant knot. But it was her animation, the passion with which she engaged the children, that captivated Vikram most. He hung back, content to watch until she finished her presentation and the children dispersed with paper, butterflies she had given them. When she finally turned and saw him, her smile was genuine. "You came," she said, approaching him. "I wouldn't have missed it," Vikram replied. "The turnout looks impressive." "Beyond our expectations," Anya agreed, gesturing around them. "And the pledges have been generous. We might actually break ground on the center next month, months ahead of schedule." "That's wonderful news." Vikram hesitated, then added, "How's your father doing?" Anya's expression softened. "Much better. He's even talking about visiting the construction site once we begin building. He says he wants to meet the engineer who redesigned our roof to include solar panels." The evening progressed with speeches and presentations. Vikram found himself being introduced to Anya's colleagues, all of whom seemed to know exactly who he was and what he had contributed to the education center plans. He realized Anya must have spoken about him, acknowledging his involvement rather than minimizing it. As the formal program concluded and music began playing, guests mingled more freely. Vikram was engaged in conversation with a potential donor when he felt a light touch on his arm. "Can you spare a moment?" Anya asked. "There's something I'd like to show you." She led him away from the main gathering to a small table set apart from the displays. On it sat a detailed architectural model he hadn't seen before, a miniature version of the education center but with additions that weren't in the original plans. "What's this?" Vikram asked, leaning closer to examine the intricate details. "The expanded vision," Anya explained. Phase 2, incorporating your suggestions for the research wing and community engagement spaces. She pointed to a small plaque beside the model. Read it. Vikram bent to read the engraved text. The Sharma Malhotra Wing for Collaborative Conservation Research, where engineering meets ecology. He straightened slowly, meeting Anya's gaze with surprise. You're naming it after both our families. That's all right with you, Anya said, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. I wanted to acknowledge that this expanded vision wouldn't exist without your input. You helped me see that conservation and development aren't always opposing forces, that the best solutions come from collaboration. Vikram was momentarily speechless, deeply moved by the gesture. I'm honored, he finally managed. Truly. Anya took a deep breath. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about, away from the crowd. She gestured toward a path that led to a small garden area. Would you walk with me? They strolled in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the fundraiser fading behind them. In the garden, a stone bench offered a view of the city lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. As they sat, Anya turned to face him. These past months have given me a lot of time to think, she began, about what happened between us, about the person you've shown yourself to be since then. Vikram listened intently, not daring to interrupt. When I discovered your deception, I was devastated, she continued. Not just because I felt foolish, but because I had begun to care for you deeply. I thought everything I felt had been based on a lie. It wasn't, Vikram said softly. The circumstances were false, but what grew between us was real. At least, for me. I know that now, Anya acknowledged. Your actions since then have spoken louder than any words could. You supported causes important to me without seeking credit. You stood up to your investors to preserve the wetlands. You helped my father when he was ill, expecting nothing in return. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The man who did those things is someone of integrity and compassion. Someone very different from what I imagined when I walked away that night. Hope flickered in Vikram's chest, but he tempered it with caution. I made a terrible mistake, Anya. The fact that you're even willing to talk to me again means more than I can express. Hope flickered in Vikram's chest, but he tempered it with caution. I made a terrible mistake, Anya. The fact that you're even willing to talk to me again means more than I can express. I've been holding back, Anya admitted, looking down at her hands. Protecting myself by keeping our interactions professional, focused on projects rather than feelings. She looked up at him then, her eyes reflecting the soft lights of the garden. But the truth is, I miss what we were beginning to have. I miss the way we talked about everything and nothing. I miss the person I was when I was with you, braver, more open to possibilities. Vikram felt his heart quicken. I've missed you every day, he said simply. The connection we had. I've never experienced anything like it before or since. I've been afraid, Anya confessed. Afraid that giving you another chance would make me vulnerable again. Afraid that the trust, once broken, couldn't truly be repaired. That's a reasonable fear, Vikram acknowledged. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. No, it isn't, she agreed. But you've been rebuilding it brick by brick, with each action you've taken since that night. Not with grand gestures or promises, but with consistent choices that show who you really are. She reached out hesitantly, her fingers lightly touching his. I think I'm ready to try again, Vikram. Not from where we left off, but from a new beginning. One, based on complete honesty and the people we've both become since then. Vikram gently turned his hand to clasp hers. I would like nothing more, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But I need you to know that I'll understand if there are moments of doubt, times when the past casts shadows. I'm prepared to earn your trust for as long as it takes. Anya smiled, the warmth reaching her eyes. I know you are. That's why I believe this time can be different. She squeezed his hand. I'm not offering forgiveness as if what happened never occurred. I'm offering acceptance of who you are now with the full history of how we got here. As they sat together in the garden, their hands intertwined, Vikram felt a profound sense of peace wash over him. This wasn't the ending of a redemption story. It was the beginning of something new and undefined, something they would build together with open eyes and honest hearts. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you," Anya said after a comfortable silence. "That first day at Cafe Tulsi when you came in Rohit's place, what did you expect to find? What were you looking for?" Vikram thought for a moment. "I had a mental checklist, I suppose. Family compatibility, educational background, traditional values. All the things my parents would consider important in a match for Rohit. And instead, you found someone who challenged every preconception I had." Vikram smiled. "Someone passionate about causes I'd never considered, who saw the world through completely different eyes than mine. Someone who made me question priorities I'd never examined." Anya nodded thoughtfully. "And now? What do you see when you look at me?" Vikram's gaze was steady, his answer coming without hesitation. "I see the person who taught me that true strength isn't in never making mistakes, but in how you respond to them. I see someone whose conviction inspires me to be better, whose compassion extends to all living things. I see a future I never imagined for myself, but now can't imagine living without." Anya's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "That might be the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me." "It's the only way forward for us," Vikram replied. "Complete honesty, even when it's difficult." From the direction of the fundraiser, they heard announcements that the final tally of donations was about to be revealed. Anya stood, still holding Vikram's hand. "We should get back. They'll be looking for me." As they walked together along the garden path, Anya stopped suddenly. "One more truth before we return," she said, turning to face him. "I think I'm falling in love with you, Vikram Malhotra. Not with who I thought you were, or who you pretended to be, but with the man you've become, the man who had the courage to change." Vikram felt his heart expand with a joy so intense it was almost painful. "And I love you, Anya Sharma. Not for who I hoped you might be, but for exactly who you are." Under the canopy of stars, with the sounds of celebration drifting toward them, they shared their first kiss, not as people playing roles or harboring secrets, but as two individuals who had journeyed through deception and hurt to find something genuine on the other side. Later, as they rejoined the fundraiser to learn that the education center had received double its funding goal, Vikram stood slightly apart, watching Anya accept congratulations from supporters. Her joy was radiant, her dream finally within reach. In that moment, he understood that the greatest gift of his misguided deception had been the painful but necessary journey to authenticity. He had agreed to help his brother and met a woman who changed his life, not by accepting him as he was, but by inspiring him to become who he could be. As if sensing his thoughts, Anya looked up and caught his eye across the crowded space. Her smile, meant only for him, held both acknowledgement of their complicated past and hope for their future. In that smile, Vikram found his answer. Sometimes the longest journey was not to another person, but to the truth within ourselves. And when two people made that journey together, even after starting on paths of deception, what they found at the end was something rare and precious, a connection forged in difficulty, tempered by honesty, and strengthened by forgiveness. It was, Vikram realized as Anya made her way back to his side, exactly the love story neither of them had been looking for, but both had been waiting to find.